He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1957. He wrote The Stranger, The Plague, and The Myth of Sisyphus. He defined the philosophy of the absurd. He argued that life has no inherent meaning, and that this is not a tragedy, but a liberation. He was one of the most important thinkers of the 20th century. Before all of that, he was a goalkeeper. Albert Camus grew up in a poor neighborhood in Algiers. His father died in the First World War when Camus was 1 year old. His mother was a cleaning woman who was partially deaf and could barely read. They lived in a 3-room apartment with no electricity and no running water. The poverty was absolute. There were days when there was nothing to eat. His grandmother beat him with a bullwhip. Football was not a hobby. It was an escape. The only place where the rules were clear and fair. The one thing Camus had was football. He played for the Racing Universitaire d'Alger junior team. He was quick. He was fearless. He played in goal. Later in life, Camus would say, "Everything I know about morality and the obligations of men, I owe to football." He was not being cute. He was not making small talk. He meant it literally. What does a goalkeeper know that other players do not? A goalkeeper is alone. When your team scores, you are 100 meters away. You celebrate alone. When you make a mistake, everyone sees it. There is no hiding. There is no teammate to blame. The ball is in the net and 40,000 people are staring at you. You pick it up and you go again. Camus understood this. The goalkeeper's isolation became his philosophical framework. In a meaningless universe, Camus, absurd, you are the goalkeeper. You did not choose to be here. The rules were made by someone else. The game will end regardless of what you do. But while you are here, between the posts, you play. You dive. You get up. You do your job. Not because it matters in some cosmic sense. Because you chose to be here. Football also taught Camus about collectivism. On the pitch, he learned that individual talent was nothing without the team. He learned about loyalty. About sacrifice. About shared joy. These were not abstractions. They were things he felt in his body on Sunday afternoons at the Stade Municipal in Algiers. Camus' football career ended when he was 17. Tuberculosis. The disease nearly killed him. It did destroy his lungs. He would struggle with breathing for the rest of his life. Goalkeeping was over. But the lesson stayed. The goalkeeper became a writer. He worked as a journalist. He joined the French resistance during the Second World War. He edited the underground newspaper Combat. He wrote editorials that risked his life. He stood in goal again, this time against fascism. After the war, he became famous. The Stranger was published in 1942. A novel about a man named Massault who kills another man on a beach and feels nothing. He is condemned not for the murder but for his refusal to pretend to feel things he does not feel. The book is about honesty. About the absurd. About standing alone against the expectations of society. Camus won the Nobel Prize at 44, the second youngest recipient in history. He used the prize money to buy a house in the south of France. He kept writing. He kept thinking. He never stopped being the kid from Algiers who learned everything he knew on a football pitch. The goalkeeper died in a car crash in 1960. He was 46 years old. He had a train ticket in his pocket. At the last minute, his friend offered to drive him instead. The car hit a tree near Sens, a small town southeast of Paris. In Camus' briefcase was an unfinished novel. The first sentence read, "Today, my mother died. Or maybe yesterday, I don't know." He had been rewriting The Stranger's opening line. He never finished it. His death shocked the literary world. He was at the height of his powers. Sartre, his former friend and bitter rival, wrote a tribute. They had fallen out over politics, over communism, over everything. But when Camus died, Sartre wrote that Camus represented the heir to the great tradition of those French moralists whose work constitutes perhaps the most original element in French letters. Even his enemies could not deny what he was. Football never left Camus. In his notebooks, he wrote about matches he remembered decades later. He described the feeling of a well-timed dive, the weight of a wet leather ball, the specific loneliness of standing in goal while the game happened at the other end of the pitch. These were not metaphors to him. They were memories. The connection between football and philosophy was not a gimmick. It was not the kind of thing a writer says to sound relatable. Camus genuinely believed that sport taught ethics in a way that books could not. On a pitch, you learn fairness and courage and solidarity not by reading about them, but by doing them. You learn to lose. You learn to win without humiliating your opponent. You learn that the rules applied to everyone, including you. He once said, "After many years in which the world has afforded me many experiences, what I know most surely about morality and the obligations of men, I owe to sport. Not to philosophy. Not to literature. Not to religion. To sport. To Racing Universitaire d'Alger. To the white posts and the muddy gloves and the rain-soaked Sundays at the Stade Municipal. To the goalkeeper's creed, you stand alone, you do your job, and whatever happens, you get back up." Some people spend their whole lives searching for meaning. Camus decided there was none. And then he decided to live fully anyway. To write. To resist. To love. To play. The philosopher who stood between the posts and refused to flinch. When Camus said everything he knew about morality came from football, here is what he meant. Life is not fair. You will make mistakes. People will watch you fail. The universe does not care whether you win or lose. But you play anyway. You show up. You stand between the posts. And if the ball gets past you, you pick it up and you go again. That is not just football. That is the absurd. And nobody understood it better than a goalkeeper from Algiers who wrote his way to a Nobel Prize.